Welcome everyone to this Let's Play of Kerbal Space Program. This is a series in which Jeb and I use sandbox mode to have fun with rockets. Now the other day we were watching a documentary by our favourite filmmaker Daz24680, and he was telling us all about the benefits of asparagus staging. So Jeb thought it would be a good idea for us to build a test vehicle just to prove him right. So let's head on over to the vehicle assembly building and do just that. So here we are in the vehicle assembly building, and we have a very simple vehicle. It has a pod on the top with Mech Jeb fitted, so there'll be no cheating involved in this test. It will be an automated test, so we can't benefit one method or the other. We have a very simple science payload with a load of batteries and goo containers and so on. But the important part of the test are these 3 tanks and 3 engines you see at the bottom there, all identical, small tanks with small engines which do not have any fuel lines attached, so we do not have asparagus staging fitted. Now if you don't know what asparagus staging is, don't worry, we'll go into that shortly. But first of all, let's launch this vehicle as a reference to see how well asparagus staging really works. So we'll head on out to the launch pad and do just that. Right, well here we are on the launch pad. We have our test vehicle ready to launch. Jeb is in the control seat. He'll be viewing the test, because we're going to be doing most of the test automatically using Mech Jeb. So we've set up Mech Jeb to do our auto staging. We just need to set throttle to maximum. We'll set the T key, the SAS, on, and we'll launch the test vehicle. Now, while we're ascending, we're going to be watching 3 key things. We're going to be watching our maximum altitude when our fuel runs out. We're going to be checking on our maximum speed when our fuel runs out. And we'll also be watching these gauges over here. This is the amount of fuel we used across the 3 engines we're using. You'll see all 3 of them are firing. They're all firing equal thrust, and they're all using equal fuel. Now that's an important thing to note, because that's exactly what asparagus staging does not do. Now in this example, all 3 fuel tanks are going to run out at exactly the same time, which means we'll be carrying all of this launch stage into space all at the same time. So the weight of the vehicle is simply dropping based on how much fuel we've used, not on how much equipment we've dropped. So as we approach running out of fuel, we poise our finger over the escape key and ready, 2, 1, and stop. There we go. The engines have flamed out and we made 14.8 kilometers and a smidgen over 500 meters per second. So that's our reference vehicle. That's how far a non-asparagus stage reference vehicle will get us. Let's head back to the vehicle assembly building and add asparagus staging. Right, well, welcome back. We're back in the vehicle assembly building, and this is our reference vehicle. Now, asparagus staging is a very simple method of improving the efficiency of your vehicle by dropping equipment you don't need as soon as you don't need it. And in this example, what we're going to do is we're going to drain fuel from the outer tanks to the inner tanks, so that once these tanks are empty, which will happen quite quickly because the central engine will be consuming fuel from the outer tanks, we can then drop these outer tanks. So not only will we have lost all the fuel, but we will have lost the weight of these objects as well. And that'll make the central section much more efficient for the rest of the journey. Now we do this by going over to the fuel section, going to the last page of the fuel section and taking your external fuel duct. Now this is a pipe that you can use to link tanks together, and it's only one way. So we want to take fuel from the outer tank, make sure we put symmetry on, from the outer tank across to the inner tank. You'll see, if we look very closely, there are little arrows showing the direction of flow. And of course, by using symmetry, we've got a pipe on the other side as well. Now what this means, as I was explaining, this engine will consume fuel from the outer tanks. as well as these engines consuming fuel from the outer tanks, which means very quickly these ones will empty, but the central one will still be full. We can then use the staging to eject the empty outer tanks, eject the unused or now unusable engines, and then our ship will be much lighter. So let's go back out to the launch pad and see if this really is a better vehicle. Right, well, welcome back to the launch pad. You can see we have our Asparagus staged vehicle. We have our fuel ducts, our fuel lines in place. We have mechanical Jeb ready to auto stage for us. So all we have to do is put thrust up to maximum with the shift key, put the SAS on with the T key, and launch. So as we ascend, we need to keep an eye on our fuel uptake, our fuel consumption, and you can see that two of these engines, the two outer engines, are consuming fuel much more quickly than the central engine. Now the fact that it's consuming fuel at all is a bit misleading, because if we click on the engine itself you can see it's completely full and not being used, so this is a little bit of a glitch, but don't panic, we'll soon see that fill right back up. So let's keep an eye on the fuel. We've got 6 seconds, 5 before it runs out, so let's watch what happens when finally they're ejected. Off they go, and we have a full fuel tank again. Now we are losing a little bit of speed because this little engine really isn't made for launching vehicles, but as we start to consume fuel it starts to pick up speed again. So let's keep an eye on our maximum altitude and our maximum speed as we ascend. We've still got another 40 seconds worth of fuel, so it looks like we're going to beat our test altitude record by some considerable margin. We've got about half a tank of fuel left and we're 14 kilometers now, and here we go, 14.8 kilometers, and we've still got almost half a tank of fuel. Speed is below what we had previously, but of course we did have that dead spot just after we ejected the two outer tanks, but we are now accelerating at quite a good rate. 20 kilometers and 12 seconds worth of fuel remaining. 8, 7, so let's get ready to press the escape key and pause the flight. And cut. Oh, just very, very slightly before. But as you can see, 545 meters per second is higher than we got in the test flight, and 28 kilometers up is double what we got in the test flight. So clearly Asparagus Staging is a lot better for this sort of vehicle than not Asparagus Staging. It is definitely much more efficient to dump stuff you don't need. But of course some things can go wrong with Asparagus Staging, so let's go back to the vehicle assembly building and discuss that. So here we are back in the vehicle assembly building, and you ask, what could possibly go wrong? Well, there are a number of things that could go wrong. There are three main examples of things that can go wrong, and the first of them is to fit your fuel ducts without checking your symmetry, which means you'll get a fuel duct on one side but not on the other. And the obvious problem with that is that this tank will drain faster than this one, causing your ship to become unbalanced, spin out of control and probably crash. So make sure you've got Jeb an escape system, otherwise he's in big trouble. The other possibility is you've remembered to put your symmetry on, but you've set your pipe to run in the wrong direction. So you can see here the arrows are moving outwards. Now that won't unbalance your ship because obviously the central tank will drain outwards and these tanks will remain balanced. But of course your staging, which is set to eject these first, will get messed up and you'll end up probably having a horrible crash, or at least not reaching the altitude you expect. Finally, even if you have your pipes going in the right direction, you could simply have messed up your staging and end up dropping your engines before ejecting your empty tanks. and you'll find these are the 3 most common problems with asparagus staging. Now of course you don't have to limit yourself to just 2 outer tanks. You can have 4, 6, or with the very big tanks you could even probably squeeze in 8, with the outermost tank feeding round in a spiral into the centre tank. And then of course you've really got to check your staging and make sure your staging has everything in the right order. Well, I hope you found that informative. I hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.